It was hard for me because having a child with a need that I couldn't help her with was difficult because I just wanted to fix it. Find the right doctor, the right treatment, the right pill, but that's not how autism works. Even in his worst depression, would still understand and be empathetic to how it affected me. But there certainly is some pressure to make sure that you're on, that you can be patient and kind and thoughtful, especially if you're going through your own stressors at work or whatever else is going on in your life. There is pressure, absolutely.
When we think about caregiving, we usually imagine the home environment, and caregiving can be very challenging in the home. But there is some structure and routine that we can put into place to make things easier. But what happens for caregivers when they're not at home? They're in a restaurant, they need to use a public bathroom, they're at a party at a friend's house, and the unpredictable happens. A challenge arises. How does the public perceive them, and how can they help?
I'm making this for lunch, Jason. Sure. Especially like with the tomatoes and the cucumber water, it's not gonna...
Jason first told me that he has bipolar on our second date, which is probably unusual for some people. Jason just didn't think it would be fair to me to wait too long to tell me because he didn't want me to fall for him and then to find out that he was ill and not be prepared to deal with it. I've seen Jason go through several depressions, and those for Jason are debilitating. He can't get out of bed. He can't go to work. He can't have, hour-long conversations. He can't go to social events, to outings. None of that is available to him. He uses an analogy that I really like, that he's basically trapped in a plexiglass box. Like, he can see the outside world, but he doesn't feel like he can really interact with it. There's this kind of imperceptible wall that divides him from everyone else. So Jason was suffering from a moderate depression, and one of our best friends was getting married, and it was really important that we both be there. And anytime that Jason would suffer depression and there would be a social event coming up, I'd get a little bit stressed about it, wondering, will he be able to go?
It was the usual. There was a DJ, there was music. It was a really fun, the dinner was, while the dinner was served, there were speeches, and it was a typical wedding. And something started to happen that I realized that my being there was becoming foolish a little bit. I was pushing myself beyond my own limits, but also it was a bit of a lie, because as I got worse as the night went on, I was able to feel less and less and less of the experience. And so although I was there, it wasn't doing anyone any good, because I could feel myself drifting from the whole thing.
It was no surprise to me when about halfway through dinner he leaned in and said, I have to leave soon. And there's that moment where it's just like your heart sinks a little bit, because it's a wedding, and to not have your partner there with you it's just a little sad. And sad for him more than for me. So I felt worse for Jason, of course, than I did for myself, but you can't help but feel a little badly for yourself as well. I think it's just human nature. And he made a quiet exit, so just a couple people needed to know, and then I was left on my own. And when people asked me what happened, I just said, Jason wasn't feeling well, because if they don't know his illness and his condition, it's not exactly the right moment to bring it up and explain it. But then I always struggle with, I don't ever want to lie about it, because I don't think that's fair either. But if he had diabetes or anything else, I might just say, he just wasn't feeling well as well. So I don't think it's necessarily a cop-out.
That was one of those examples of a social experience where my illness really got in the way, and it robbed me of that night, and it significantly affected Anna that night. Her night was completely different than what it would have been had I been well and just gone, and we would have had a great time together, and we would have danced the night away, and it would have been fun, and it would have been something we enjoyed as a couple.
What kind of support do you think the spouse might need in a situation like that?
All people who deal with relatives or loved ones who have mental illness and those sorts of challenges need respite. They need respite because the care is constant. The concern is constant. Their concern also is for the entire family. It affects the entire family. And there is great love, but there is also additional responsibility for the family members.
Couples have the ability to communicate on the same intellectual level, so they can develop strategies to help them cope in challenging situations. But what about a parent-child relationship? The abilities to communicate effectively are not as clear. The gap is much, much wider. And the public expects that a parent will control a child and control the situation in which the child is. And for caregivers, it's not always that easy. What do you think a parent would want from the public if their child is outside of the home and is having a difficult time? What do you think the public should do?
Oftentimes, autistic children, it's not their fault that they're reacting in a certain way that could be annoying to the average person or bothersome. It's a question of compassion and education. I think a lot of people don't understand what autism is, and just overall compassion and education, that's what the general public needs to do, yeah.
You're listening to Life Unrehearsed on CJD 800. I'm Matt Delvecchio with Stephanie Erickson, and we have Robert Collette with us sharing some stories and the family dynamics of having a child with autism.
I know just from talking to you a bit before we went on the air that you learned of this diagnosis pretty early on in your daughter's life. But in terms of when you first heard that diagnosis, tell me about how the whole family kind of pulled together, the extended family, aunts, uncles, everybody. How did it impact everyone?
It's like a 2x4 right over the head, so it was hard. When are you going to start practicing for your talent show? It's going to be you? Mm-hmm. Who else? Lisa?
Yeah.
Who else?
I don't know yet.
Do you know the words?
Together? No, I'm singing alone.
So do you know all the words?
I have to practice it.
When is the talent show?
I don't know, I have to ask.
And she's come a long way. She knows how to take the train, get off. She walks to school with her friends, sometimes alone. She looks both ways. One of the things that I told myself was that I'm going to treat her like I would treat her if she had no autism. She's going to learn how to ride a bike. She's going to skate. She's going to ski. She's going to golf. She's going to swimming. Maria hated water. She was petrified of water. And I remember we brought her in the water and she started screaming. She was so petrified, she was climbing on my shoulders. And at that moment, everyone stopped. Everyone was staring. They didn't know what was going on. And when I say everyone, there were people coming in from, it was a big complex, coming in from the other side of the complex into the pool to see who this child was and what is going on.
Well, people don't respond. There's certain that have empathy and certain who don't. Others will simply, look at you and think the parents haven't taught the child, to behave a certain way or act a certain way. You fear for your child every day.
So we're not worried about her, we're worried about the world around her. If there's one piece of advice I can give to the public, is that when you see a child in that situation, it's okay to walk up to the parent and ask if there's anything they can do.
The person dealing with the illness and the caregiver guaranteed know their situation better than you do. It's that simple. So the best way to respond, it's asking questions like, do you need any help? Is there any way I can help you? And acknowledging statements like, I'm sorry you're in this situation, it must be difficult. Those are general statements that will offend zero caregivers and frankly zero individuals dealing with an illness. But what it does is it opens dialogue, gives them the opportunity to say, you know what, I do need your help and here's how you could help me. Or just to say, I don't really need your help, but your shoulder is great. Like, just being able to talk about it helps a lot. The moral of the story and the moral of the answer is the caregiver needs support as much as the person who's sick.
Show caregivers your support and that you are available to help if needed by liking and sharing this video. #ThisMattersToMe, #WeTheCaring.